Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, November the 1st. I look like crap because I just got up. It's late in the morning. I slept in again. I've been making a habit of that on this trip. I'm going to have to break that habit again. Um, it's my last morning in Cleveland. We're heading back to Wisconsin today, so I'm heading back home. Um, it's been an interesting trip. We carved pumpkins. I've got a little pumpkin guy here. This is my little guy that I made yesterday. There, now you can see him. So we carved pumpkins yesterday. We didn't really dress up. I wasn't really in the makeup mood yesterday. We did go out and do some ritual because it was Samhain. So we did go out and honor our ancestors. I had some prayers that I had to finish for somebody, so I went and did those. We fed the ancestors, fed the fairies. Noticed that the fairies had been there before us. Actually, there was glitter and sparkles everywhere. It was kind of cool. I got to see Lake Erie kind of whipped up a little bit. I imagine that probably was not her worst, but she had some nice waves on her, especially for somebody who's not very not a water-loving person. Um, it's been an emotional trip. Dee and I both have been doing a lot of processing with each other over a variety of issues. Um, Very emotional. I've done a lot of crying this trip, done a lot of thinking, a lot of soul searching and emotional things. Learned a lot about fear this trip, particularly how fear can color the way the way fear can color the way you run a relationship and who you choose to relationship with. Um, and not just my own, but others as well. Um, so I'm gonna I'm gonna say this in this video. I've talked about a variety of emotions in videos before. I don't know if I've really talked about my anger issues before, but I know I've certainly talked about my sadness and my depression. I've talked about my thankfulness, and I know I've talked about some of the things that have made me happy as well. So I'd like to talk about fear today. I want to talk a little bit about the things that drive my personal fears. I have a fear of being alone. That is probably one of my greatest fears. And it's a big fear for a lot of people. When you really take what drives people um, to do the things that they do, you'll oftentimes find that fear is the base of that emotion, of those actions, in some form. It's a fear of being alone, or it's a fear of being rejected, or it's a fear of people not acting the way that you anticipate them acting, or a variety of reasons to be afraid. And for me, my biggest fear is being alone. And the things that stem from that are fears of rejection, fears of betrayal, fears of being left. These are very important and very frightening fears for me. And it's really hard to navigate friendship sometimes when the very first thing that you think of is, how are they going to leave me? Um, it's hard to put your trust in somebody when you're constantly watching their actions and second guessing everything that they say and do, because you know that at some point they're going to get up and walk away. And it's really hard when things like that happen to not take it personally. It's very difficult to look at a situation like that subjectively and say, it wasn't me. It didn't have anything to do with me. It was them. It's difficult to not sit there and browbeat yourself and say it's because of who I am, or it's because of what I said, or what I did, or how I look, or how I act. Or it's very hard to not take it personally. It's very hard to not hurt very deeply. And so therefore, for people like me, making relationship is really hard, very difficult. Um, and when people like me let people into their inner circle, it's it should be treated as an honor. It should be treated as a privilege, because so very few people are allowed that close. And I recognize this in other people. I see kindred spirits out there who walk with the same fears, that walk with the same fears of rejection and the same fears of being left and being betrayed. And when I see those kindred spirits, it's all I can do to not run up and hug them and hold them and smother them, because I know how very hard it is to let somebody into your inner circle. And all I can really say for those of us that walk that path and walk those fears is, at some point you have to let go. And when I say you have to let go, what I don't mean is letting go of people. At some point you have to let go and just tell that fear to fuck off. And I know I try and keep this language fairly clean on this station or on this channel, but truly that is the only thing I can say. You have to tell that fear to fuck off, and you have to just love, and love with your whole heart. Because if you don't take the time to love with your whole heart, regardless of whether it's going to be broken or not, if you don't take the time to love with your whole heart, you will never, never find the friendships that mean the most to you. You will never find the people who support you the best. And you will never find that safety and security and that sense of home in the people that are around you. You will only find people who want you for the things that you can provide for them. So for those of us who walk that path, for those of us who walk in fear, for those of us who are afraid for the situations in our lives, and we're afraid to let our guard down, and we're afraid to show our true humanity to other people, I tell you to tell that fear to fuck off. Grab love. There's so little of it in this world sometimes. Grab love when you see it. Grab those who care about you. Hug them, love them, be close to them. And tell fear to fuck off. Happy November, guys. Happy New Year for us pagans. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye.